did it kill some people? Maybe. People certainly died with COVID in their bloodstream, but like I said, if you look at the genomics of the bloodstream of 8,000 healthy people, you'll find 42 common viruses, including HIV, to be relatively common in that population. So when we go and test the bloodstream and say there's PCR evidence of DNA of COVID in your bloodstream, all we've said is that this is part of the garden. COVID is now part of your terrain. Is that COVID responsible for the downstream syndrome? It's impossible by our own assessment, because when Harvard analyzes death from COVID, what they find out is it's actually air pollution that predicts better than any other thing in the environment. And better than the presence of the virus, your prediction of death is how many micrograms of air pollution, smaller than 2.5 nanometers, is in your air that you're breathing. That's what you're going to die from. And so, and it's so powerful that it's every 1 micron. It turns out that a year ago, I was at Sun Valley Wellness Festival, and I showed everybody where the next pandemic was going to happen, right out of central China. And I showed the spraying map of Roundup in China and said it's going to come right here because that's where we're putting the most pressure on biology. And so when a scientist yesterday says these labs are doing this 8 million times faster than nature, that nature can do this at any speed it needs to do. Nature is way more adaptive than our laboratories are capable of. But I would say that nature has had very little reason to do really rapid genomic shift over the last few thousand years, until we've scaled industrial agriculture to the level we have. And with now 4.5 billion pounds of antibiotic being poured into our soils every year, we're putting extraordinary pressure on the microbiome. And so I believe the microbiome is accelerating its genomic generation of genetic material that we call viruses now, because it needs to adapt faster than any time in the last 55 million years. There's a force of nature happening that we call extinction that is forcing massive adaptive information stream to come out of biology itself. And we need to realize that we're producing that too. Our stress produces huge genomic information out of us. Do we call that viruses? No, we call that exosomes, and there's different ways we kind of categorize those things, but really it's just lexicon. Biology that's under stress expresses new genomic information, and we do that by the second. Every second I am expressing different microRNA, and my microRNA exudes out of my body. My microRNA is carried in these tiny little exosomes, and it's not a full protein coding gene. It's tiny little messengers to the whole genome around me, to the microbes around me, to the family members around me, to the pets, to the people I walk by, to the plants that grow around me. I'm expressing genomic information out there as to what my stress level is. And so every organism on the planet is generating this. Now imagine 7 billion humans expressing genomic information. Now imagine 1.4 quadrillion bacteria on your body expressing genomic information. At least 50%, or 30 to 50%, depending on which system you're in, of the viruses that are coming into the environment are being made by bacteria. We call them bacteriophage. And so bacteria are making this genetic information. The human cells are making this genetic information. If we're not making genetic information that's an exosome of a virus type thing, then we're making these microRNA signaling devices. We are literally exuding this. Now, how can a lab say they can do it 8 million times faster than that host of complexity? They simply, I would just argue that all day long. That's physically impossible for a lab to do this faster. Can they do it in one strand of DNA faster? Sure. But they have to bet that what they're doing there is going to then interact with the environment in some intelligent fashion.